In a world where spiritual seeking knows no bounds, one ancient text has stood the test of time, guiding seekers towards inner peace and enlightenment, and that text is the revered Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita, a sacred Hindu scripture, has been a beacon of wisdom for centuries, offering insights into the human condition and our place in the universe, inspiring countless generations to embark on a journey of self-discovery. This timeless classic is a dialogue between Prince Arjuna and his charioteer, Lord Krishna, set against the backdrop of a great war, where the fate of humanity hangs in the balance, and the choices we make have far-reaching consequences. As we delve into the Bhagavad Gita, we find a rich tapestry of spiritual teachings, woven from the threads of love, compassion, and wisdom, which have captivated the hearts of spiritual seekers from diverse backgrounds and cultures. The Bhagavad Gita's enduring relevance lies in its ability to transcend time and circumstance, speaking directly to our deepest aspirations and most profound fears, as we navigate the complexities of our own lives. Through its verses, we gain access to a profound understanding of the human experience, and the eternal questions that have puzzled philosophers and sages for centuries, inviting us to explore the depths of our own existence. As we embark on this journey through the Bhagavad Gita, we find ourselves in the company of Arjuna, a mighty warrior, who stands at the threshold of a great crisis, torn between duty and compassion, as the drums of war beat louder, and the fate of his kingdom hangs in the balance. In this moment of supreme crisis, Arjuna's despair becomes a turning point, a catalyst for a profound spiritual awakening, as he turns to Lord Krishna for guidance, and we, as listeners, are invited to bear witness to this transformative journey, and to reflect on our own path towards spiritual growth and self-discovery. The Kuru dynasty, a lineage of ancient Indian kings, had been plagued by a deep-seated rivalry between two branches of the family, the Pandavas and the Kauravas, for generations, setting the stage for a catastrophic conflict. Against this tumultuous backdrop, the five Pandavas, noble and just, were pitted against their 100 cousins, the Kauravas, in a struggle that would ultimately decide the fate of the kingdom. The Kauravas, led by the arrogant and power-hungry Duryodhana, seethed with jealousy towards the Pandavas, who were favored by their father, King Pandu, and grandfather, King Dhritarashtra. Duryodhana's resentment grew as the Pandavas, with their exceptional abilities and unwavering dedication, earned the respect and admiration of the people, further fueling his desire for dominance. In a ruthless attempt to crush the Pandavas, Duryodhana conspired against them, orchestrating a rigged game of dice that would ultimately lead to their downfall. The Pandavas, unaware of the treachery that awaited them, were defeated in the game, and as a result, they were forced to surrender their kingdom and their freedom. The humiliation of Draupadi, the Pandava's wife, at the hands of Duryodhana and his cohorts, was the final insult, leaving an indelible scar on the Pandavas' collective psyche. The Pandavas were subsequently exiled for 13 long years, a period of immense hardship and struggle, during which they were forced to survive in the wilderness. Despite their tribulations, the Pandavas remained steadfast in their commitment to justice and righteousness, never wavering in their resolve to reclaim their rightful place in the kingdom. Meanwhile, Duryodhana, emboldened by his victory, continued to consolidate his power, crushing any opposition and eliminating potential threats to his rule. As the years passed, the divide between the Pandavas and the Kauravas grew, making a peaceful resolution to the conflict increasingly unlikely. In a last-ditch effort to prevent war, Lord Krishna, the divine prince of the Yadava dynasty, embarked on a peace mission to negotiate a settlement between the warring factions. Krishna's mission, however, was doomed to fail, as Duryodhana, driven by his insatiable ambition, refused to yield, leaving no room for compromise or reconciliation. With all avenues of diplomacy exhausted, the stage was set for a brutal and devastating war, one that would ravage the land and claim countless lives. The Kauravas, with their formidable army and well-stocked arsenal, were confident of their victory, but the Pandavas, with their unwavering dedication to their cause, were undaunted. As the two armies faced off on the battlefield, the fate of the kingdom hung precariously in the balance, poised on the brink of a catastrophic confrontation. The air was thick with tension, heavy with the weight of impending doom, as the warriors prepared for the clash of a lifetime. The Pandavas, though outnumbered, were determined to fight for their rights, to reclaim their kingdom, and to restore justice to the land. As the war drums beat, signaling the start of the conflict, the Pandavas steeled themselves for the trials ahead, drawing strength from their unshakable bond and their unwavering commitment to their cause. In this maelstrom of emotions, with war finally becoming inevitable, the stage was set for a conflict that would shake the very foundations of the kingdom. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, the field of Kurukshetra awakened, its sacred soil ready to bear witness to the epic clash of armies. The air was alive with the sound of clanging steel and the murmur of anxious warriors, their hearts heavy with the weight of impending battle. The vast expanse of the Dharmakshetra stretched out before them, a tapestry of hope and despair, of courage and fear. The cold dawn air clung to the skin of the warriors, a chilling reminder of the long and bloody day that lay ahead. The sky above was a deep shade of indigo, with the stars still twinkling like diamonds scattered across the fabric of the universe. The armies of the Pandavas and the Kauravas stood facing each other, two vast oceans of steel and fury, each one determined to emerge victorious. The ground beneath their feet was sacred, a place of pilgrimage and worship, now transformed into a battlefield. The silence was oppressive, punctuated only by the sound of armor creaking and the soft murmur of prayers being whispered. The warriors stood poised, their eyes fixed on the enemy lines, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The sun was slowly rising, its rays casting long shadows across the battlefield, like the outstretched arms of the gods. The armies seemed to stretch on forever, an endless sea of faces, each one set with determination and courage. The sound of conches and drums filled the air, a cacophony of noise that seemed to shake the very foundations of the earth. The stage was set, the actors were in place, and the great drama of the Bhagavad Gita was about to unfold, a story of heroism and sacrifice, of duty and devotion. As the armies faced each other, the air was electric with tension, the very fabric of reality seeming to vibrate with anticipation. The great warriors of the Kaurava army stood tall, their presence exuding an aura of power and unyielding resolve. Bhishma, the revered grandsire, shone like a beacon of wisdom and experience, his eyes gleaming with a deep understanding. Drona, the esteemed teacher, stood alongside, his countenance a mask of calm determination, his heart ablaze with duty. Kripa, the beloved preceptor, gazed out upon the battlefield, his spirit unshakable, his will unbreakable. The mighty Karna, his armor glinting in the sunlight, radiated an aura of invincibility, his confidence unshaken. Ashvathama, the son of Drona, stood resolute, his eyes burning with an inner fire, his soul afire with purpose. Duryodhana, the proud prince, sneered at his enemies, his heart consumed by ambition, his spirit driven by greed. On the opposing side, the Pandavas arrayed themselves, their hearts filled with a sense of justice, their spirits afire with righteousness. Arjuna, the great warrior, stood at the forefront, his eyes scanning the horizon, his heart heavy with foreboding. Mighty Bhima, his brother and companion, stood beside him, his massive frame towering above the others, his spirit unyielding. The noble Yudhishthira, his countenance a picture of calm dignity, gazed out upon the gathering, his heart filled with compassion. The sons of Virupati, their young faces set with determination, stood ready to face the enemy, their spirits unbreakable. Krishna, the divine charioteer, guided Arjuna's chariot into position, his eyes twinkling with a deep wisdom, his presence exuding an aura of peace. As the charioteer, Krishna took on a humble role, his divine nature veiled, his true identity hidden from the world. Yet, his presence seemed to illuminate the entire landscape, his aura infusing the atmosphere with an otherworldly energy. The Pandavas, with Krishna by their side, felt a sense of reassurance, their hearts filled with hope, their spirits lifted. The Kauravas, on the other hand, seemed to grow more agitated, their minds clouded by doubt, their hearts filled with fear. As the two armies faced each other, the stage was set for a conflict that would shake the very foundations of the world. The warriors on both sides steeled themselves for the battle ahead, their spirits unbroken, their wills unshaken. The air was heavy with anticipation, the outcome hanging precariously in the balance, the fate of the world uncertain. In this moment of truth, the characters of the warriors would be revealed, their true nature laid bare, their hearts exposed. The battle would be a test of their courage, their wits, and their devotion, a trial by fire that would refine and purify their souls. As the armies faced each other, the air was electric with anticipation, the moment of truth finally upon them, the very fate of their world hanging precariously in the balance. The conches were raised to the lips of the great warriors, their blasts about to shatter the stillness, heralding the commencement of the war. Krishna's Panchajanya conch rang out, its deep, sonorous tones echoing across the battlefield, a call to duty and courage. Bhima's Pandra conch boomed out, its low, throbbing notes vibrating through every cell, a primal call to battle. The conches of the other heroes joined in, a cacophony of sound that rent the air, each one unique, yet blending in perfect symphony. The drums and trumpets added their voice to the tumult, a deafening crescendo that shook the very foundations of the earth. The earth trembled beneath the feet of the warriors, as if the land itself was being torn asunder by the conflicting forces. The sky above seemed to vibrate with the sound, the heavens themselves reverberating with the cosmic drama unfolding below. The tumult was so great that it seemed to shatter the boundaries between heaven and earth, the two realms merging in a maelstrom of sound and fury. The sound waves crashed against the horizon, a wall of noise that threatened to engulf everything in its path. The warriors stood firm, their hearts steeled for the battle ahead, their spirits unbroken by the chaos that surrounded them. The conches, drums, and trumpets continued to blare out their challenge, a defiant assertion of the warriors' resolve to fight for what they believed in. The universe itself seemed to be holding its breath, the very fabric of reality trembling with anticipation, as the war began in earnest. As the war drums beat louder, Arjuna's heart grew heavier, his resolve crumbling beneath the weight of his doubts, and he turned to Krishna with a plea to draw the chariot into the space between the two armies. The chariot, with Krishna at the reins, began to move forward, its wheels rolling smoothly across the dusty plain, carrying Arjuna toward the epicenter of the impending battle. With a gentle tug on the reins, Krishna guided the chariot into the space between the two armies, the horses halting obediently at the center, their eyes fixed calmly ahead. As the chariot came to a stop, Arjuna's gaze fell upon the sea of faces before him, his eyes searching out the familiar forms of his kin and comrades, his heart sinking with each recognizable face. The warriors of the Kaurava army stood tall and proud, their armor glinting in the morning sunlight, their eyes burning with a fierce determination to emerge victorious. Arjuna's eyes wandered across the battlefield, taking in the assembled armies, the rows of chariots, the massed infantry, and the proud warriors arrayed on either side, all eager for the battle to begin. The sound of clashing steel, the thunder of drums, and the scent of smoke and sweat all swirled together in a maelstrom of chaos, yet Arjuna's gaze remained fixed on the faces before him. His vision blurred as tears pricked at the corners of his eyes, his breath catching in his throat as he beheld the beloved friends and family who stood arrayed against him, their faces set in fierce determination. Among the Kauravas, Arjuna saw the wise and noble Bhishma, his grandfather, his eyes shining with a deep wisdom and a deep sorrow, as if he too felt the weight of the impending tragedy. Drona, the venerable teacher, stood proudly at the forefront of the Kaurava army, his eyes blazing with a fierce inner light, his heart resolute in its determination to fulfill its duty. As Arjuna's gaze swept across the battlefield, he saw the proud and arrogant Karna, his sworn enemy, his eyes flashing with a fierce and bitter rivalry, his very presence seeming to embody the conflict itself. The gathered warriors, each one a thread in the intricate tapestry of the battle, seemed to embody the very essence of war, their faces a mixture of fear, rage, and anticipation. Arjuna's heart recoiled in horror as he beheld the assembled armies, his mind reeling with the realization that he was about to engage in a conflict that would pit him against his own kin and friends. The chariot, standing motionless at the center of the battlefield, seemed to embody the still point at the eye of the hurricane, a symbol of the calm and serene wisdom that Arjuna so desperately needed to access. As Arjuna gazed out upon the assembled armies, His eyes fell upon beloved family members and revered teachers, all arrayed against him, their faces set with determination and duty, filling his heart with anguish and trepidation. The familiar faces of fathers, grandfathers, and uncles, once filled with warmth and love, now seemed to embody the harsh reality of war and its unyielding consequences. A deep sorrow began to well up within Arjuna, as he contemplated the devastating losses that the impending battle would inevitably bring, threatening to overwhelm his very being. The weight of his responsibility as a warrior and a leader began to bear down upon him, causing his limbs to falter and his resolve to waver. Trembling overtook him, as the gravity of the situation sank deeply into his consciousness, rendering him momentarily unable to act or respond. His skin burned with an inner fire, as if the very fabric of his being was being torn asunder by the conflicting demands of duty and compassion. The once firm grip on his bow, Gandiva, began to slip, as his fingers, now weak and trembling, struggled to maintain their hold on the familiar wood and string. A sense of despair settled over Arjuna, like a dark and foreboding cloud, threatening to engulf him in its depths and extinguish the light of his wisdom. The faces of his loved ones, now transformed into enemies, haunted his vision, filling his heart with an unspeakable grief and longing. The thought of causing harm to those he held dear, of bringing suffering and pain to those who had once brought him joy and comfort, was almost too much for Arjuna to bear. The chaos and turmoil of the battlefield, once a distant hum, now rose to a deafening crescendo, as Arjuna's inner turmoil reached a fever pitch. In this state of utter despair, Arjuna's mind, once a sharp and discerning instrument, became clouded and uncertain, unable to find a clear path forward. The great warrior, once renowned for his courage and prowess, now stood frozen in uncertainty, his bow slipping from his grasp, as he succumbed to the overwhelming weight of his emotions. As Arjuna's emotions swirled, he lamented to Krishna that killing the Kurus would destroy the eternal family line, a calamity too devastating to contemplate, with far-reaching consequences that would forever alter the course of his family's destiny. With a heavy heart, Arjuna spoke of the timeless Dharma that would perish with the destruction of his family, a loss that would leave an unfillable void in the lives of those who remained, and would forever be mourned. The thought of his family's Dharma being extinguished filled Arjuna with an unshakable sense of dread, as he knew that without it, the very fabric of their existence would be torn asunder, leaving nothing but chaos in its wake. As he stood there, frozen in anguish, Arjuna realized that when Dharma perishes, lawlessness overtakes the whole family, bringing with it a maelstrom of suffering and pain that would be impossible to escape. The great warrior's eyes welled up with tears as he contemplated the horrific consequences of his actions, and the thought of his family being consumed by lawlessness was almost too much to bear, a burden that threatened to crush his very soul. With a deep sense of sorrow, Arjuna told Krishna that the destruction of his family would lead to the corruption of its women, a calamity that would have far-reaching and disastrous consequences, and would forever alter the course of their lives. The corruption of women, Arjuna lamented, would lead to the confusion of castes, a development that would drag his family and its ancestors down into the depths of hell, a terrible fate that would be impossible to escape. As he stood on the precipice of this great abyss, Arjuna realized that the cessation of offerings of rice and water to his ancestors would be the final nail in the coffin of his family's Dharma, a tragedy that would be compounded by the suffering of those who had come before. The thought of his ancestors suffering in hell, their memories forgotten and their needs unmet, was a prospect too awful for Arjuna to contemplate, and one that filled his heart with an overwhelming sense of despair. With a sense of conviction that shook his very being, Arjuna declared to Krishna that those who destroy their family's Dharma dwell forever in suffering, a fate worse than death itself, and one that he was determined to avoid at all costs. As the weight of his emotions threatened to overwhelm him, Arjuna's voice cracked with anguish as he contemplated the terrible consequences of his actions, and the suffering that would be inflicted upon his family and its ancestors. The destruction of his family's Dharma, Arjuna knew, would be a calamity that would haunt him for the rest of his days, a constant reminder of the terrible mistake that he had made, and the suffering that he had inflicted upon those he loved. With tears streaming down his face, Arjuna confessed to Krishna that he could not bring himself to slaughter his own people, a prospect that was too awful to contemplate, and one that filled his heart with an overwhelming sense of revulsion. The thought of killing his own kin, Arjuna declared, was a stain upon his conscience that he could never erase, a burden that he would carry with him for the rest of his days, and one that would forever haunt him. As he stood there, frozen in uncertainty, Arjuna knew that he had to make a choice, one that would determine the course of his life, and the fate of his family and its ancestors, a decision that would be impossible to undo. With a sense of conviction that shook his very being, Arjuna told Krishna that no kingdom, no pleasure, and not even life itself was worth the slaughter of his own people, a realization that filled his heart with a deep and abiding sense of purpose. The thought of gaining a kingdom at the cost of his family's dharma was a prospect too horrifying to contemplate, a development that would leave him with a lifetime of regret, and a sense of sorrow that would never fade. As he stood on the battlefield, surrounded by the sights and sounds of war, Arjuna knew that he had to stand by his principles and refuse to fight, a decision that would be difficult to make, but one that he knew was right. With a deep sense of sorrow, Arjuna realized that the destruction of his family would be a calamity that would haunt him for the rest of his days, a constant reminder of the terrible mistake that he had made, and the suffering that he had inflicted upon those he loved. The weight of his emotions was almost too much to bear, as Arjuna contemplated the terrible consequences of his actions, and the suffering that would be inflicted upon his family and its ancestors, a burden that he knew he could not carry. As he stood there, frozen in uncertainty, Arjuna knew that he had to find a way to reconcile his duty as a warrior with his desire to protect his family, a dilemma that would require great wisdom and courage to resolve, and one that would test his character to the limit. The thought of his family's suffering was a constant presence in Arjuna's mind, a reminder of the terrible consequences of his actions, and the need to find a solution that would bring peace and prosperity to all, a goal that seemed impossible to achieve, but one that he was determined to pursue. With a sense of determination that shook his very being, Arjuna declared to Krishna that he would not fight, a decision that would have far-reaching consequences, and one that would require great courage and conviction to uphold, a stance that he was willing to take, no matter the cost. As the sun beat down upon his armor, Arjuna stood tall, his heart filled with a deep and abiding sense of purpose, a sense of conviction that would guide him through the trials that lay ahead, and would ultimately lead him to a deeper understanding of himself and the world around him. The fate of his family and its ancestors hung in the balance, as Arjuna struggled to come to terms with the terrible consequences of his actions, a burden that he knew he could not carry alone, and one that would require the guidance of a wise and compassionate teacher to resolve. In this moment of profound crisis, Arjuna knew that he had to turn to Krishna, the embodiment of divine wisdom and compassion, a guide who would help him navigate the treacherous waters of his own heart, and would lead him to a deeper understanding of the true nature of reality. As Arjuna's eyes fell upon the assembled armies, his resolve crumbled, and he felt the weight of his duty bearing down upon him like a physical force, crushing his spirits and shattering his will to fight. The horror of the impending battle overwhelmed him, and he cast away his bow and arrows, the instruments of war that had once seemed so integral to his identity as a warrior. His mind reeling with the thought of clashing with his own kin, Arjuna's gaze fell to the ground, and he felt his strength ebbing away, like the tide receding from the shore. The chariot, once a symbol of his power and prestige, now seemed a prison, confining him to a fate he could no longer accept, and he sank down onto its seat, defeated. His body trembling with anguish, Arjuna's thoughts were consumed by the memories of his loved ones, and the bonds of family and friendship that would soon be torn asunder by the harsh realities of war. The din of the battlefield, the clang of steel on steel, and the cries of the fallen, all faded into the background, as Arjuna's inner turmoil took center stage, and he became lost in a sea of despair. His heart heavy with grief, Arjuna's vision began to blur, as tears welled up in his eyes, and he felt the sting of sorrow, like a sharp arrow piercing his very soul. In this state of utter desolation, Arjuna became oblivious to the world around him, and his entire being was focused on the unbearable pain that threatened to consume him whole. The chaos of the battle-scarred landscape, with its impending carnage and destruction, receded from his consciousness, as Arjuna's inner world became the only reality that mattered, a world torn apart by conflicting loyalties and duties. As the darkness closed in around him, Arjuna's spirit, once buoyed by his unwavering commitment to his duty, now sank to the depths of desperation, and he felt the need for guidance, for a beacon of light to illuminate his path. As Arjuna's crisis deepens, it becomes a poignant reflection of the universal human struggle to balance duty and love, a conflict that echoes within every soul. In this anguished moment, Arjuna's heart embodies the quintessential paradox of human existence, torn between righteousness and compassion. The weight of his responsibility as a warrior clashes with the love he bears for his kin, rendering him immobilized by doubt. This debilitating sense of uncertainty is a stark reminder that even the noblest among us can falter in the face of moral ambiguity. Arjuna's despair, though overwhelming, holds within it the seeds of transformation, a turning point that will usher in a profound awakening. As the darkness seems to consume him, a glimmer of hope appears on the horizon, borne on the wings of his sincere longing for guidance. In the midst of turmoil, Arjuna's heart remains receptive, open to the wisdom that will soon illuminate his path. The depth of his despair becomes the sacred doorway to a higher understanding, a threshold that will lead him to the teachings of the divine. Through Arjuna's story, we are reminded that our own struggles, though unique, are part of a larger human tapestry, woven from threads of love, duty, and the quest for meaning. As we walk alongside Arjuna on his journey, we begin to see that our darkest moments can become the catalysts for growth, transformation, and spiritual awakening. May the wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, as it unfolds, offer us solace, comfort, and the courage to navigate the complexities of our own hearts. As we close this episode, may the gentle whispers of the divine continue to resonate within us, beckoning us deeper into the mysteries of the human experience. In the peaceful silence that follows, may our hearts remain open, receptive, and attuned to the eternal wisdom that will guide us on our own journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth.